Hello, and welcome to Hiring and Empowering Solutions podcast. My name is Molly McGrath, and this podcast is dedicated to providing the key ingredients to transform your employees into a dream team that creates consistent results in every aspect of your law firm, including team empowerment, leadership, business development, communication, hiring, and sadly, when the time does come, firing as well. As some of the country's leading staffing and management consultants, we help law firms and business owners, i.e. entrepreneurs, and the team that support them, i.e. intrapreneurs, to powerfully connect and work together to grow the business together. So today we are so excited to have our guest here. We have Meredith Glendening from the Sechler law firm in Mars, Pennsylvania. And today's topic is going to be about how to go from an employee mindset to an intrapreneur who knows what it means and what it takes to have your attorneys back while protecting their time, energy, calendar, and cash flow. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Meredith. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. I am so honored that you asked to speak to me on your podcast. And I hope that there is even just a little bit that I might be able to support your new rock stars. That would be awesome.
There's no doubt in my mind that that is absolutely what's going to occur today. So if you are a team member, or honestly, if you're an attorney, please grab a pen and paper because you are going to want to take some feverish notes today. I've known Meredith for 8 years now, and how we met is that we had a law firm in the Sechler law firm. Back then it was Heritage Elder Law, and they called us to help them hire a marketing coordinator. They were growing. They had one employee at the time, a client service coordinator, and they were ready to really up-level their marketing, their lead generation, et cetera. And they wanted to hire a marketing relationship and community outreach coordinator. And they called Hiring and Empowering Solutions to do the staffing services for them. And I remember that I will never forget that call, which is very common that we do get from attorneys all the time. I want someone with prior legal experience. They don't know what it takes to run a law firm if they haven't worked in a law firm before. And we really convinced them to be open for us to, our hiring process is to find the right person with the right mindset, emotional intelligence, the inside, what we call batteries included, and really have the human side of things in addition to the skill set that they're looking for the position. And I will never forget, Lainey and I, we were just banging our heads against the wall. We find people that had amazing marketing experience. They hit all the requirements. Some people that had previous legal experience, but there was just something missing in regards to that innate ownership and that innate leadership and knowing how to complete an entrepreneur's sentence and knowing what it takes to protect someone's time, energy, and have their back. And the day that we found Meredith, I remember calling Tim and saying, we found your rock star. Just trust us. She has no prior legal experience, but just please trust us. You have got to meet with her. And a lot of times attorneys will say to us, send me the resume before so I can look at it. And we're always like, no, you're not seeing the resume. Just meet the person. It's about the human side of things. And so Tim and Jeff sat down and met with Meredith, and immediately, of course, 8 years later, Meredith's still here. We got the call saying, you're right. Thank you. Sorry, we tried to buck your system there, but we trust you and we get it. And she's hired. And so what I love about this story is that it's 8 years later, and Meredith started off with Heritage Elder Law, and they grew very, very fast. And then throughout the years, then the partnership had split up, and then she went with one of the attorneys and helped them rebuild and rebrand. And she'll tell us a little bit about her story here, but it's just absolutely a testament from what it goes to being an employee, which Meredith had all the makeups of everything it needed to be a true entrepreneur and a true leader, and to be able to protect her attorney's time and back, et cetera, but had come from a traditional environment where you were treated and expected to show up, do a good job, put your head down, do your work, and collect your paycheck. And coming into the law firm, of course, any attorneys that we work with, they run their business with an amazing culture. So coming into that amazing culture and having, I guess they're embracing and really supporting and expecting a growth mindset. One of the things that I love, Meredith, and I would love for you to speak into is what's your number one piece of advice for new employees that are coming in, or maybe even some employees that have been there for a while? Maybe there's some attorneys that are listening to this podcast saying, gosh, I wish my so-and-so, they're a great person, they're doing a good job, but I wish they knew what it meant to step up and lead and to take charge. What would you say your number one piece of advice for somebody who's either coming in or existing, but maybe their attorney didn't have the groundwork for supporting them to and giving them permission to step up and lead? What would you say would be the greatest piece of advice that you can give for somebody who's supporting a small law firm with maybe limited systems and or resources and or direction in place?
My number one piece of advice all day long for that scenario would be flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. I started at Heritage, and I was starting on board as their marketing person. I was supposed to go out in the community, shake some hands, manage some branding, and just kind of that overall liaison marketing position. I had switched over to a million different hats by the end of my first week. I was doing project management. I was doing client services. We were under construction in that office, so I was even doing some like general maintenance. So not typical, but definitely flexibility. And I was thinking about some of these things while I was munching on some lunch this afternoon, and I realized that looking back at the colleagues that I had through my college years, through my first couple of jobs where I was kind of in one of those big kid jobs, flexibility is not something that any of those colleagues would have used to describe me. In fact, probably the opposite. And I just wanted to mention that because flexibility isn't something that you have or don't have. You can definitely work on managing your flexibility. And sometimes you feel like you're flexing all the way to a breaking point, that it's just that you just can't do it. But having flexibility to be ready to answer the phone, to make some photocopies, or even more complex, helping your attorney with a tough case, you've got to be able to do that flexing and also do it with a smile on your face, because that's going to be important to your attorney, your clients, and yourself. I think that's something that you've really got to be intentional about. And on those days where you feel like you're flexing all the way to a breaking point, you gotta get home and you gotta recenter and you gotta find ways to refuel yourself. That you aren't going to get everything you need in life in work. You've got to take time to refuel and re-energize. So I guess maybe those are two pieces of advice. Be flexible, but also make sure that you are taking good care enough of yourself so that you can remain flexible.
I love that flexibility to a breaking point. I'm even looking at the spectrum and the kind of the pendulum, if you will, of that, because that's exactly right, Meredith. You and I have had so many conversations over the years. I coached your firm for many, many years, and you could set a watch almost to 90 days where somebody's having a meltdown or a breakdown. And 9 out of 10 times, it's one of those two things where you're either so attached to your agenda and how you want things to look, whether it's you or the attorney, doesn't matter who it is, and sort of feeling like you're white knuckling life. And that typically is because you're not having that sacred time together to connect and to communicate. I just wrote a blog about that employees will never ever leave because of more money. So often people call me, oh, so-and-so quit because they, got a better job, but more money. I'm like, give me their phone number right now. Let me talk to them. And I call them and they're like, no, that's not it at all. It's because there was very little communication or connection. And people will leave when there isn't communication and connection. So when you have that flexibility and or inflexibility and you're white knuckling your life and you don't have time to power down and do the power of the pause and have standards and safety nets in place for weekly communication, for strategic planning, for time to really all hunker down. I always call it the locker room huddle before you go on this Super Bowl playing field and just realign with what we're doing, why we're doing. And I love the term that you and Tim always use. Where's our North Star? Where's true north? And really anchoring to that is number one. And then number two, I love what you talk about of really what I'll use my terminology of having that self-care and making certain, because if you're just white knuckling it every day in the office and then you go home and you're getting hammered by your family, kids, whatever it might be, and you don't have that time for that sacred space for realigning and grounding and giving yourself that self-care, then it's going to feel like Groundhog Day every single day. And you're going to just feel like you're sucking wind everywhere that you go. And that's exhausting. And I know many times when we've talked, I love that you use a terminology of flexibility is because, I mean, look at your example. You were hired as a marketing coordinator. And I remember many times where you were, especially when you were, your office, you were living under the stairs for a while with no heat and a stocking cap on, right?
Yes. We probably spent about 4 months in the basement in construction dust, and we would all go out to lunch together just because we wanted to make sure the food we were eating didn't have dust on it. So that was quite a growing experience for all of us together.
Yes. And really keeping that front and center for you. And you have to remind that I know I thought it was going to look like X, but it's not, especially when you're in a small business and you're in a small law firm. You have to realize that you are, and I tell employees this all the time, you are in the business of change when you're in the infancy stage of your business. And I don't care if you've been in practice for 10 years, but you never had systems in place, you never had standards in place, what have you. That's still considered the infancy until you make that shift to operating by systems and process and standards, et cetera.
Yes. And I like the concept of, I mean, I am 100% on that 90-day cycle. I'll get to a breaking point at the end of 90 days and I have to have some good time with my attorney. And I like to use the analogy of, I know what the mission is here. I work for a veteran law firm, so there are a lot of military concepts here, but I know what the mission of this firm is. The mission has not changed one single day in 8 years. It has been tried and true. And I feel like that's going to be the same for a lot of entrepreneurs and attorneys, that they're doing this for a purpose. They know what they want to do, but that while the mission might stay the same, the operation that might change. So the day-to-day workings might change and the day-to-day priorities might change, but the overall mission is 100% spot on every day of the year. But I feel like I start to get fuzzy or frustrated or at my breaking point when I feel disconnected from the operation. Like if I'm not on target with what I need to be doing to get to the mission that my entrepreneur has laid out for me, that's when I start to get fuzzy. And so finding that sacred time with my attorney really helps me get clarity on what I need to do to get to his mission. And always knowing the mission is even more important. I mean, know what the mission of the firm is 100%. But the operation can change and it can flex, and that's up to the attorney or as a team with the attorney. But that knowing that the day-to-day can also help kind of bring a little bit of sanity to your life too. So there's definitely take some ownership on raising your hand and say, wait a minute, just can you clarify for me what this operation is about? And then I'm ready to keep on trucking to get to the mission.
Yeah. And I love it. You said that about the day-to-day operations, then the mission, but also there's a piece I'd add to that of really getting connected to where your attorney is at personally. Like, I don't mean their personal life, but where their head's at, and making certain that you have time for that. Like you said, you could set a watch to every 90 days. And Meredith and I've been talking, and we, in preparation for the podcast, but they're just coming off of spending a weekend doing growth and at a conference where they're working on the business. She shared with me right before we started today, we're going to have a firm retreat on Wednesday to debrief everything that we learned and really come up with our key projects and our project focusers, et cetera. But the one thing that I love that you said is you understand the mission, so there's no question about that. There's a lot of employees that don't, and they don't share it, and it isn't constant like yours has been for 8 years that since you've been there. But one thing that I know that you all have set up standards. So you have weekly team meetings where you are going through caseload, you're going through the calendar, you're going through cash flow, you're going through where we owe the file, et cetera. So that's great to keep you in check with making certain that we're delivering on all our promises to clients, referral sources, to each other internally, et cetera. And then you also have consistent retreats. You guys have grown so fast. And what, a year? It'll be 2 years in July?
It'll be 2 years in July. Yes.
Since they left an existing law firm that was just going gangbusters, the partnership broke up, and then Meredith had her Jerry McGuire moment where she left with her fish, and it was her and the attorney, and built it in 2 years. So it was you, Tim, and how many employees do you guys have now?
We have 2 attorneys. We're in the process of hiring a third, and we will have 8 support staff.
Wow.
So at least right now, 10 team in its entirety. So.
And I'm sure your flexibility has been a bit challenged through that process. Yes,
I think so. It has been, but it's really exciting, and I definitely feed on this type of energy. I'm excited. So we have at least one new person starting May 1st. We're so excited to have her on board. We are like I said, in the process of hiring another attorney, and I'm about to post for another job. So and even though now I'm in kind of a position of bringing on team myself, we don't always look for the person with the legal experience. We are bringing in somebody who used to sell radio advertisements, but they connect with our mission, and they really believe in helping families and connecting families with services that they need to have a fantastic life. So she's coming on board. The person who is sitting at our front desk right now has experience in the health world. So she did some time at a hospital and a nursing home, and then she was working kind of the back office at a health insurance company. And she said, I just need more people in my life, but people's my thing. I want to help people get what they need to have a good life. And she's a rock star. Couldn't be happier to have her. So there's no magic. You have to have a legal background to be awesome at helping grow these firms. You just have to know that you can do it. And I'm pretty sure that everybody you're talking to can do it.
And a lot of times employees don't know that they can do it per se, but I think the biggest piece, you talked about this a little earlier, people in my life, my previous life, would not have used the terminology flexibility to define me or to describe me. And it's something that I have learned to embrace and to adapt. And there's probably many, many times that you felt like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I have very limited access to my attorney, especially now. I mean, hearing what you have done in less than 2 years, a year and a half or so. And I'm certain that your attorney's back to back to back and delivering workshops and client meetings, et cetera, and your access and your direction from your attorney has probably on a day-to-day basis been very, very limited. So can you describe, Meredith, what has worked for you to overcome, number one, the limited access to get what you need to accomplish your goals and your duties on a day-to-day basis? What we hear from team member all the time. I have a huge list and I need direction from the attorney and I can't move anything forward. And they're the biggest bottleneck. And and most employees are high follow through. So when they're not able to check something off their list and feel that personal victory of accomplishment and completion, especially day after day after day, you will feel consistently like a failure and
Yes.
deflated and defeated and frustrated and overwhelmed and at a breaking point. These are all terminologies I hear every day. Tell us what has really like helped you to be able to keep moving forward towards it, true north, when you, I would assert, have very limited access to your attorney.
I think that we're able to go long times without kind of regrouping because we have spent a lot of time together. And that might not be a luxury that everybody has, but it's something that everybody, I think, can work on. In the times that I do meet with Tim over the years, it's here are my 1 million questions that I have for you. And back when we have time to do them all, we go through them. But then at the end of that meeting, I try to also kind of do a quick recap. Okay, what of these decisions that you had to just make in the last 30 minutes could I have made on my own? Give me the permission necessary to say, I can do this for me, or for the firm, or for you, that I don't have to check with you that I'm interested in buying a different type of paper. That's something that our entrepreneurs don't need to be spending time on. I think that it could be really hard for them, though, to say, no, this is my paper. This is my business. I'm going to keep control over this. But it really helped me and them, I think, to say, can I take this off your plate? Give me the permission to be in charge of the office supply order, and you never have to think about paper ever again. And I think through the years, that has definitely evolved, and I take on more and more every year. And I still have that kind of check-in question that I feel like I have the wherewithal and the ability to make this decision. Can I please take this off your plate? And I get lots of yeses, but I still get no's too. And I think that I'm also learning what parts of his business he wants to keep near and dear to his heart. And I want to support that. So, for example, I'm never going to design a newspaper ad. Not ever again in my entire life. I'm okay with that. And it might sound like something I should just take off his plate, but he loves it. He loves to sit down and talk about a tagline and what is going to really engage a reader in a newspaper. And he wants to do the market research for that. So I can shorten the time by making sure he has all of the preparation that he needs. I'll prep a file and say, this is what the readership is. This is the geography. This is the last 3 ads that we ran in here. We could spice it up or use this ad. I'll give him some tools, but he really wants to do that work. And I like that I can at least support him in that activity and make it less time, but that's still going to be a task that he wants to take.
I love that because I remember a couple of years ago when I came out to your firm to do a retreat and we were at dinner and I remember Tim saying, I need something fun to work on. Give me something fun to work on. And what I hear when you say that is, yeah, you can create an ad. You have a marketing background. Of course you can. You could take that off his list, but you see him light up when he has the ability to sit in a room and pace and pull out the whiteboard and be able to, because he's phenomenal at it. He'd come up with amazing taglines and drop of a heartbeat. But that energy that is infused in him when he gets his creativity going, what it does when he walks into the conference room with a prospective new client and he's able to bring that energy forward, and it just helps him with his closing rate, et cetera. So you've already figured out you need to give him that fun time, that creativity time. And I would assert that when the wheels start coming off the bus, where you guys are feeling burned out, when you're feeling frustrated, where you feel like you just own jobs, where you feel like it's Groundhog Day every single day, and you and I've had conversations about this, you can probably point back to what was a catalyst for bringing us back to this place of resistance and just feeling like we're powering through is probably the absence of those things that feed both your souls. Number
Yes.
one, Tim having that creativity time, you being able to, we always have this running joke. I'm like, all right, go get Tim, take him for beers. Cause
Yes.
once you get him to the bar and you give him a beer and he sits down and you have that one-on-one time with him to say, okay, just puke it out. Tell me everything that's going on, what's on your heart, what's in your head. And let me tell you where I'm at. And it just transforms the entire business, which feeds for you to have that flexibility because you're very close to the heartbeat and the pulse of the business. And it's not just about the business. You also want to make certain that your attorney's not going to crash and burn, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit and talk to us a little bit about what you do to really preserve your sanity, your spirit, and because so go you, so go the firm, if you will. Meredith's in a role of leadership and she's advancing and leading leaders in her firm and trying to create future leaders with every person from the receptionist to whoever she hires as she's growing this practice. And it can't all be dependent on the attorney to provide that leadership because he's in the conference room and trying to drum up business and all that. So you have a lot on your shoulders, as most people, most employees in small businesses do. As you said, I was hired as a marketing person, and within 1 week, I'm crawling on the roof trying to fix the air conditioner. And I remember that way back when.
Yeah.
So what do you do, Meredith, to take kind of your growth, personal development, energy management? Talk to us a little bit about some things you have in your toolbox, if you will, to support without always having to feel like you have to look to the attorney to caretake you.
So I spend a lot of time working on this. I don't have a perfect formula, and probably because what I need changes along the way. And so, if anything, I would say give yourself permission to pay attention to what it is that you think that you need. So right now I have a standing lunch with 2 girlfriends once a month. I love them. They're really important people to me. They're my square squad. Like I love that. And I know that if I don't have that designated time on my calendar to spend with these girls, I start to falter. I can also say the same thing about spending time outside with nature, that I really work hard to find some time to be quiet, to let my mind just be. And I know that my week after spending a Sunday afternoon in the woods, just being there, just being very, very present for some time is so much better. My brain is clear. My body feels better. I'm ready to just tackle the week. And if I don't do those things, I absolutely know that there is a difference. And I also have a lot of really tough, heart-to-heart conversations with my spouse. I work a lot of hours. I'm really passionate about what I'm doing. And sometimes that gets really hard at home. And so that can compound the stress and the at the breaking point feeling. And having those conversations to say to my husband, Travis, like, I love what I'm doing. I want to keep doing this. It doesn't mean that I'm choosing between you and work. It just means that I love this. And we've become way more intentional about the time that we spend together. So it is Sunday mornings. Those are our time. The dogs go for a walk with us, or we go out to breakfast at our favorite diner. Just, we get really, really intentional. And I think finding intentional time for yourself is so, so important. If it's that you like to mountain bike, or so join a group, find someone who's going to keep you accountable to make sure that you go out and you do those things, or join a class. Like, you're paying money for this, so don't just waste that money. Go to that class and enjoy it. Whatever those little triggers are to make sure that you get it, you've got to make sure that you take care of you, because then if you aren't there, you can't take care of your firm. And I mean, it's kind of like that medical caretaker analogy, but it's true in this case too. And I see it with my teammates that I think that we have an amazing team right now, and I love working with every single one of them, and they know the mission. Absolutely know and follow the mission. But I can tell when they aren't taking good care of themselves too. And I'm starting to have some good heart-to-heart conversations with them that, are you going for the walk in the park as often as you say you will? You need to make sure that you make that a priority. Or, you haven't seen your sister in a good couple of weeks, and you've all day today, you've said how much you miss her. Go for a walk outside, call her, catch up, but then make an appointment or make a date to see her, and then come back in and you'll be able to get refocused. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of also helping them find their way around this too, which has been good for me. So it's kind of do as I say, and then I need to say to myself, and do as you do. just do as you say. It's good for everybody.
Yes. Oh, wow. Lots of great tips in there. Number one, of really having that standing appointment with your girlfriends. What I know about Meredith is, I would assert, or I do know this, but I think it's important, is that her tribe that she has of girlfriends are also on a path of growth. They also have growth mindset. They also are on the same train that she's on. So it's not like you're going to go just pick random people that are going to sit and complain and be negative and what have you. But these are people who really keep her accountable to who she wants to be in this world, to making certain that she, they're pushing her a little bit to just be clarity around her relationship, like she said, with her spouse and with her dogs and nature, and also with work, to really keep her in alignment with who they know who she is, to make certain that she doesn't crash and burn. So they're almost walking mirrors, holding up the mirror for her. Mm-hmm. Which is why you will never compromise or miss one of those meetings, because it just keeps you really anchored and grounded. The other thing I'd say is about your spouse. This is so, so, so critical, because, Meredith's done a beautiful job over the years of, I always tell people that when we are doing the hiring process, talk to me a little bit about your home life, talk to me about your support of your spouse and your kids or whatever you have, because you have to make certain, like Meredith said, she works long hours. She was traveling all weekend right now for a conference, or sometimes they have late night workshops or speaking engagements, etc. And she's created that opportunity to make certain she has safety nets for her Sunday mornings and getting out, etc. But also saying, I need the opportunity to come back, and I need you to hold the puke bucket so I can just puke everything that I just carried around all day today. But I don't want you to fix it. And I'm not saying that I hate my job. I just need a soft place to land so I could just dump this and then be done with it. And creating that in your world, I love that, because we've had many conversations where you'll go up to Tim and say, you need to get in a tree stand. You feel that he's, Tim's a big hunter. He has a amazing family lineage of it, and a hunting cabin and all that. And Meredith will see where he's just grinding and grinding and grinding. She's like, all right, listen, you're going to do this, 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 and this. You're going to crush these goals by Friday, and you're taking next week off, and you're getting a tree stand with your family.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. And he'll do the same for me. And that might be worth 8 years of this relation, why that can happen. But because we both know if we're not on our A game, then it's going to start to affect the firm. And it's so much easier to take that Friday off a little bit early and go plant your garden and come back on Monday, as opposed to just keep on grinding, and then stuff starts to fall away. then you're grinding and you're trying to fix things or pick up some broken pieces, and then it just gets harder and harder. It's so much easier to just take care of yourself along the way than trying to fix along the way.
I love that. So go the coach, so go the coachees.
Yes.
Yes. So Meredith, one thing I know that you appreciate is podcasts and self-development books and things of that nature. I know you do have quite a bit of commute when you do go into the office, and you're constantly feeding your brain with personal and professional development. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're currently reading or what your go-to is right now to support that?
Yes, I am so excited about the book I'm reading right now. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Wilkins. And nobody is paying me to say this. I believe he is a former SEAL that has taken the principles of being this elite Army military person and transformed it into kind of how to manage business, both at the corporate level down to mid-level and line team positions. And I absolutely have to admit that I was not excited about this book because I was thinking in the back of my head, I had so much stuff around it. I said, well, he is this SEAL. He's just going to yell at me and tell me I'm doing a bad job, and I'm not going to really want to get excited about this. But he took some amazing stories and transformed them in a way that I was able to understand his main principles. It's take ownership of your position. Don't try to blame anybody else for what's going wrong, even if it's not something that was necessarily kind of on your job description. If you saw it, that's yours to own. And even though our team is growing and growing and growing, it's still a small team, and we've still really got to work together. And if I see one of my teammates struggling, I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to go up to her and I'm going to say, let me help you get all of this paperwork through the door, and we're both going to feel better for it. So while that's not my job, I'm going to take ownership of that stress, and I'm going to help them get through it. There's also these wonderful ideas of leadership and togetherness, as well as responsibility and communication. And I absolutely love it. I just ordered the next 2 books in his series, and it's really remarkable. And I have been talking about it ever since I started it. So it's affecting my home life in a great way. It's affecting me here at work. And I would heartily recommend it to anybody who is just kind of looking for a little shot in the arm.
I love that. I mean, 8 years in on your journey, Meredith's firm really, truly has been a firm that's sought after and looked up to in the estate planning and elder law community. They've spoken on national marketing panels. They have led webinars, et cetera. So they really, truly are in the top percentage of running successful businesses that many, many of their colleagues look up to and call them for tips, tricks, ideas, et cetera. And I love that 8 years in, I would say that extreme ownership, using that example, that book that you're reading, that you nailed that. You had that. It was in your bones. It was in your belly. It was in your blood, and you already had that. But what I love about that is for you to not say, oh, I already know what it means to step up and lead. I already know what it means to take ownership. I totally take ownership of everything I do, which you are. You're a person of integrity, character, and responsibility. But I love that even you're saying, wow, this is a book that's even transforming me, and not saying I already got that, which I hear from employees all the time. They get their attorneys go to conferences, they read books, they get excited, they come back, they hand them to them, and they, roll their eyes, if you will, at them and throw them on the bookshelf and never open them up. So I'm just so amazed at your commitment to growth. Number one, your willingness to constantly just peel away the layers of the onion and see where I can learn. And I love that you said this, even transcending into my personal life, into my home life, because I think a lot of times people compartmentalize that. They say, this is work and this is personal, and wherever you go, there you are. And I love and I hope that employees listening to this today, if anything else, that's what you really truly can take away, is that there is no segregation or compartmentalizing in regards to that, because the skills that Meredith, what I'm hearing from you, that you have learned in regards to flexibility, in regards to speaking up and using your voice, whether it be, okay, attorney, timeout, you're spinning like crazy. I need to take you, go have a beer, throw you in a tree stand, or, re-anchor you to whatever it might be. Your ability to use your voice, to be flexible, and to be consistently looking at what can I do for that 2 millimeter shift to up level has transcended throughout your entire life 8 years later. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say to those team members who get handed a book from an attorney after they come back from the conference, it's okay to put it on the shelf for a little while. I'm not saying that you need to go home and read it cover to cover, but as mentioned, I'm just coming off of my 90-day cycle where I was completely ready to melt down last Wednesday, completely at my wit's end. But I started up my podcast, even though extreme ownership, that is something that like my parents have given me. So day 2 of my life, I was starting to learn about extreme ownership, but that really helped me get back on track, even though it's a topic that anybody who knows me would have said, nope, she's got this, no worries. It really helps center me too. So that's another way that I can say I don't have to depend on the attorney to give me a little bit more direction. If I believe I'm a rock star, that helps me get back to being the rock star that I know I am.
And as you were saying that about it's okay to put it on the shelf, I just remember way back when with your firm, and I think it was you and Chris that started this, is the attorneys would come back and have books. And I remember you all created like a book club within your firm where you would say, okay, tell us why. And this is really important for employees. They really need to understand the why, because sometimes it lands like, well, read this book because you need fixing.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us why, anchor us to the why we're doing what we're doing. And then what can we do to hold ourselves accountable to, number one, diving in and completing this, and maybe keeping it off the shelf, if you will, and just seeing, okay, we're going to read 1 chapter a week or 2 chapters a week, and taking 10, 15 minutes in our team meeting to say, all right, what did we take away from this and what can we implement this week? What do we want to know and what do we want to walk and talk? And I think that really helps when you are handed a book, as you were talking. And like one drive-by tip I would give is just say, okay, great. Tell me why you want us to read this, and can we just put in some time to keep it off the shelf and implement it and put a chunk of time, 10, 15 minutes into our weekly stakeholders meeting or weekly team meeting to just talk about what we learned and what we want to take away so we can understand what it is you want us to be walking and living and breathing from this body of work you just gave us.
I love that. And I think that while asking why it's important from the attorney's perspective helps us kind of get the footing about how to prioritize it and where we need to get it into our life. I love that however many times that I have been handed a book and this is why you should read this book, I almost always see something different in it. And so we get double out of that book when another one of us reads it. So I saw this amazing bit. I want to transform the firm by taking on this new priority. I was like, oh, I completely missed that bit. I really got excited and energized about this part. And I want to do this. And it's all come from the same book. It's the same recipe. But that's just going to help you implement it even better, even fuller, to the extent of, that guru who wrote the book in the first place. But having multiple people implementing new things into the team makes it so much easier too, easier on you and the entrepreneur.
Wow. Gosh, Meredith, we could talk all day long with you. As you were talking, I just made a note. I'm like, I think we are going to bring you back to talk about when you finally were able to get the marketing and relationship management and the community outreach piece off the ground, because you were the catalyst and the one that did eventually get that off the ground. I know I've had you on many, many marketing boards over the years, et cetera. But I'd love to have you back in regard. You're just such a wealth of information. And if anything, I hope employees are taken away from this podcast today is that Meredith has sat in literally every seat within the practice. So when your attorney comes to you and says they need you to do X when you thought you're doing Y, don't look at it as a frustration or a hiccup or a change or a pivot or whatever it is, but really celebrate it and take it on as an honor and an opportunity, because you never, ever know where you're going to be 8 years later as Meredith. But the secret ingredient, I would say, at the end of the day is that flexibility. So thank you, Meredith. I can't thank you enough for being our guest today. And we are definitely going to have you back and have you talking about, because it's a topic, as you know, that people are always just hankering for in regards to the relationship, marketing and community outreach piece. So we'd love to have you back if you'd come.
I can't wait. I would be so excited to do that.
Great. So if any of you want to follow Meredith's journey and look at all the amazing stuff that their law firm is doing, it's Sechler Law Firm, and their website is attorneymarspa.com, and you can follow them. Their social media is just fantastic, very, very heart-centered, very much from a place of compassion-driven counsel. And I think just one of the absolutely forerunning top leaders in the entire industry. So thank you, Meredith, for being our guest today, and we can't wait to have you back.
Thank you, Molly. It has been my pleasure.
Visit our website at hiringandempoweringsolutions.com and download our free book called Intrapreneurs in an Entrepreneur's World: How to Empower Your Employees to Step Up and Lead. And this book is written both for the business owner as well as the employee. If you are an employee and you really want to learn what it means to become a value creator and a superstar, there are some amazing tips and techniques in here. And if you are an entrepreneur and you want to learn how to craft and present the conversation to your team in regards to how to get them to become what we call a superstar entrepreneur, this book is absolutely for you. So we love that you are listening to this podcast. Please drop us a line with any feedback, suggested topics you'd like to hear. And absolutely, we'd love to hear about your victories creating entrepreneurs in an entrepreneur's world.